Let's go.
Welcome to The Integrative Edge, your go-to podcast for fresh perspectives on holistic health and functional movement. Join us as we explore innovative ways to optimize your health naturally and sustainably.
I'm Kelly Demers, founder of the Integrative Wellness Coalition and the owner of True North Performance.
I'm Lindsay Seefeld, doctor of physical therapy and owner and operator of Uplifted Oncology Rehab.
I'm Dr. Kimberly Klimek, licensed pharmacist and owner of Innate Healing and Performance.
You can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Welcome to the Integrative Edge. This episode is all about blood sugar. I am Kelly. I am joined by Dr. Kim and Dr. Lindsay, and let's get into this. So our topic is blood sugar today and its impact on the body. I'm going to start by just talking about how we address things in here, and then I'm going to kick it over to you. One of the things that we run into here is we work with people that have diabetes, either type 1 or type 2, some regulated, some unregulated blood sugar levels. And one of the things that we notice holistically is that people do better with an exercise or a fitness routine if they are diabetic, to make sure that they can reduce that sometimes naturally. So it's part of it is the education, right? The things that we talk about in here, it's that sleep, diet, stress management component, but it's also that physical fitness and sweating and just elevating the heart rate for a certain number of times each week, a certain amount of minutes each week. One of the things that we've noticed with our clients that have diabetes is they have significantly reduced their A1C levels, as well as went from multiple medications maybe down to one or to none. So we know that lifestyle has a huge impact. I mean, lifestyle obviously weighs heavy on type 2 diabetics. It's the cause of that. But then in order to reverse some of those symptoms, we find that lifestyle, exercise, sleep, diet, and stress can actually pull back on some of the symptoms that they're feeling or they're experiencing. One of the things Lindsay and I and Kim we had talked about as well is relative to blood sugar, high blood sugar. Can you talk about having high blood sugar and the impact of it metastasizing cancers faster?
Yeah, that is definitely one thing. Like, while talking about just sugars in general, like think about like how much everything is processed, right? They put sugar in everything. And, you know, that is definitely, yes, there's a link that, you know, if you're having a high intake of sugar, like that can really speed up. Cancer loves sugar. And so that's a source, that's a fuel that will grow it. So, you know, individuals going through cancer or preventing cancer, you know, really should be trying to cut out some of that sugar. For sure.
Can you talk about, and Lindsay or Kim, jump in here, relative to, you know, we talk about sugar and it's metastasizing cancer cells faster. Can you talk about the difference between artificial sugars like the Snickers versus the apple or some of the naturally occurring sugars?
The naturally occurring sugars are are in our fruits, right?
Right.
And then all of the processed sugar, you know, that's all added into all of the things in the middle of.
So do those have the same effect on a patient that's going through cancer?
No, it's just the processed sugar. It's the processed sugar that.
Yeah, and I mean, they literally have done measure, you know, now you can get like a CGM device, which is like a continuous glucose monitoring device, and basically measure the impact of a blood sugar glucose spike when someone eats like an apple or if they eat like a Snickers bar or something. So I mean, those are physical like labs and measurements, but like kind of diving into a little bit of the blood work and things you would be looking for is oftentimes, yes. So the doctor will measure like a hemoglobin A1C, and obviously there's different levels. So you can be classified kind of as diabetic when you reach about 6.5% A1C or above. But there's still a lot of people in like the pre-diabetic category, which That starts to happen when you get above 5.7%. And it's kind of like you're in the little bit of the gray area. But like type 2 diabetes, even in general, that can all be reversed by lifestyle and diet changes, which we are all about promoting here for sure. But other ways, I mean, we look at like functional medicine wise, we look at things very, like I said, very preventatively. So yes, you can measure. The conventional route is usually looking at like fasting glucose levels too. An optimal fasting glucose level would be around 70 to 85. It does increase a little bit if you're an older age, but an optimal level, you really want to be around 70 to 85. And that tells you that you're really managing your blood sugar well. And then looking at a lab value, we look at something called fasting insulin. And again, I always talk about optimal levels because that's what functional medicine does. We don't let someone be super high or super low or just scraping by. We always want them to be optimized. And so an optimized like fasting insulin level is going to be around 6. Just like many things in the body, it's always kind of Goldilocks. You don't want it to be too low and you don't want it to be too high. But I've seen clients fasting insulin levels where they're like 18. And, these are some of my younger clients too. And they don't realize that blood sugar regulation is for everybody. It is not just for people who are like diabetic, but that's it's like the precursor marker to even the A1C. Like it'll show you years in advance before your A1C even got to be, if you're going to develop diabetes. So it's a way to kind of look at the lens a little bit earlier and make those changes. That's diving into a little bit of the lab work to look into.
I think you brought up such a good point talking about the number of people that are in that pre-diabetic stage, because there are so many. And unfortunately, that population, that pre-type 2 diabetes group is growing, and it's growing because of some of our processed foods and because some of the added sugars. And you couple that with poorly managed stress, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough exercise, even sunlight. All of that contributes to higher blood sugar levels and potential chronic conditions. There's validity in lifestyle choices and its reversal or its impact on those chronic conditions.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want a sure way to kind of mess up your hormones and get them out of balance, it's basically to have imbalanced blood sugar levels throughout the day and be on this little blood sugar roller coaster where, and so many people are like that, right? They're skipping meals. They're not pairing the right foods at their meals. They're not they're not making healthy lifestyle choices in general.
Going out to eat every day.
Yeah. And we'll dive into some of those tips and tricks to help balance the blood sugar, but it does come down to being consistent to keep those blood sugar levels very regulated throughout the day so that you're not getting hangry or you're not having these like mood swings and a lot of that.
Well, and when you hear the word sugar, I think people are like, oh, it's terrible for you. But guess what? Your body needs sugar. Like we have to have that glucose for our brain. I mean, half of, sugars in our body goes to function our brain. I mean, think about it. When we're run down, like you're just, and you grab something like that has some sugar, it instantly boosts you up.
Right.
So our brain requires sugar. We have to have sugar in our diet.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
We had talked about the pre-diabetic population. There's also an impact on metabolic health, right? So there's a link, high blood sugar, and people's either inability to shed the weight or it's just a lot slower. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. Well, because some of my clients kind of come into me, they're focused on like weight loss and how that's correlated to hormones. And yeah, I actually have a discussion with them about blood sugar regulation because if they are skipping meals or if they're not having like well-rounded meals with, that nice lean protein, healthy fats and carb pairing, the right ones. And we'll kind of dive into that in a minute, but, your body is not looking to burn, fat, but whenever you have more, glucose spikes into the bloodstream, it's taking those, fatty acids and storing it as more fat deposits in the body. And that it goes in a cycle. You're basically creating more inflammation in your body because I do talk to people about I mean, adipose tissue or fat tissue is really just stored toxins and inflammations at the end of the day. So part of that is, getting their blood sugar regulated. And I'm sure you could speak to this, Kelly. It's people think there's, so much food, like weight loss comes from food deprivation. I mean, yes, it is about calories in and out at the end of the day, but it's still about like the actual, like the right foods and the right nutrition for your body and the right fitness.
Quality protein is such an important component of an overall lifestyle. It's such a big building block for overall health and maintaining some of that blood sugar regulation throughout the day. People often come in and they ask for diet plans. A lot of, if they are trying to lose weight, they'll come in and just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what to eat. We don't want to do that. We can give them guidelines, and generally speaking, you want the body burns more calories, it expends more energy burning protein than it does a carb or a fat. Yeah. So really having that foundation of protein, and usually what we give people as a guideline is 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you want about 150 grams of protein in a day. If you are focused on that, a lot of times it's really hard to eat a ton of processed foods.
Yeah. Yes.
Because processed foods are so laden with fat or laden with carbs and carbs we know convert into sugar if we're not using them for energy. So really focusing, if you don't know where to start to reduce blood sugar, I would always say, look at what you're eating. Make sure that you're drinking half of your body weight in ounces every day, and then make sure that you're getting enough protein to really build a solid foundation.
Well, that's what's going to keep your blood sugar balanced throughout the day. I tell people time and time again, because every time I look at, especially my female clients, they are not eating enough protein. And like what you said, my job is not to put like this strict diet in front of their face. It's really to help you develop a healthy relationship with food so that you just easily know what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's going to keep you sustained throughout the day. That's going to prevent the blood sugar ups and downs and the roller coaster crashes.
Right. Does anybody want to tackle the food pyramid from the FDA that says women should have like 30 or 40 grams of protein in a day? And
we could do a whole episode on that. That would be a good one.
Yeah. So people are always surprised when it comes to how much protein you actually need to consume in order to live a healthy lifestyle, especially if they're in a facility that's promoting fitness or strength work or, from a triathlete perspective. Yeah. I mean, nutrition has got to be paramount. Yeah. I mean, it's just as important as the
I like to
training
think think of how we came into this world, right? Like, what did cavemen eat? We ate meat, we ate nuts, we ate, like fruit.
Lean cuisines.
No, we didn't have, all the processed stuff. So our bodies were made to eat protein and like healthy things like fruits and seeds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, whole foods for sure.
Whole foods.
Sure. I know, and I feel like I have to go on a little tangent there, a side note, because people are like, well, if I eat like protein, it makes me feel kind of sick. And then again, we just have to, like what Lindsay always says, I investigate a little bit. I investigate the like terrain and the environment. I'm like, okay, well, is that because you're not making digestive enzymes to break down those protein, fats, and carbs, so you feel super full and heavy after you have that protein? Right. Are you constipated? You're not having regular bowel movements? Because all those are all things we can fix, and then you can increase your protein intake. Right. Again, let's go back to the foundations. Sit down and chew that piece of steak for 50, I tell people, I'm like 20 to 30 times chew it so you can, it's easier for your body to break it down, because that's a good source of protein for you.
It is funny how many people, we live in a very rushed environment. Yeah. We live in a very rushed world. if you do nothing else, make sure that you're done chewing before you put another bite of food in your mouth. And honestly, I don't think people do that. You're chewing and you're still
just grabbing
shoveling
the
more
next one.
in because
Yeah.
you're on to the next thing already. You're not fully present. So I usually start by saying, here's a couple of things. One, don't go from 30 or 40 grams of protein a day to 150, because that is going to be miserable for you. The second thing is if you do increase your protein, best to make sure that you're drinking enough water to process all of that protein, because now your body is spending more of its energy processing that protein. It needs the water. It needs that hydration to get things through. And then, just making sure that all of this is on a relatively decent timeline so that you're not going from 30 to 150 in a day. But
Honestly, part of it for me is what I see a lot is a lot of skipping breakfast, and because there's a lot of information out there right now about fasting.
Yes.
And if I always say too, if your body's in you have chronic health conditions, autoimmune conditions, cortisol irregularities, hormone imbalances, whatever it is, the last thing your body really wants is the fasting. It's not ready for that. It can be a powerful tool, but it's going to be much happier when you have that blood sugar balance and you start your day off with a nice, beautiful breakfast. That's the one thing, even on my, like I said, I talk a lot about like this foundational health document I give people. I actually give them like 3 to 4 breakfast recipes, and I say, this is the most important meal of the day, and I prioritize getting 30 to 35 grams of protein with my breakfast honestly, I would say I've switched the approach to the highest protein content at breakfast.
right, I do as well.
Yeah.
I like carbs, but I usually find them that they make me sleepy, so I usually try to eat those later in the day. We talked about chewing your food. One of the things that comes across my plate, pun intended, is people will come and ask about protein shakes. And it is best to get your protein from whole foods. Certainly, protein shakes fill a need, but you are better off to go to whole food sources because there are micronutrients in whole foods that aren't present in a protein shake.
Yeah, I think when I think about a protein shake, that's like a snack to me. That's the in-between snack. I would never do a real meal replacement as a shake nowadays. Trust me, I was doing all those things in college. But
Right.
Again, I'll just share all those details. But nowadays, to me, that's like a snack because usually it doesn't contain enough protein in that smoothie kind of in general. But there's different ways to, the kind of tips and tricks for managing blood sugar to help prevent blood sugar spikes. I tell people, literally, there's research now, the order in which you eat your foods can prevent the blood sugar spike. So you should eat your veggies on your plate first, then the protein and the healthy fats, and then the carbs last. And also drink your water first or a little bit later, not with your meal, because it actually depletes your digestive enzymes by drinking your water with, you go to a restaurant and they give you this giant glass of water. It's not ideal or optimal to be drinking that whole glass of water with your meal, during your meal. It's better to drink a little bit of water before and then eat your food and let those digestive enzymes work and then drink your water after. And then I do focus a little bit more on the lower glycemic index carbs or the complex carbs because they're just easier for the body to break down a little bit and just help keep the blood sugar balanced a little bit longer throughout the day.
I have a couple questions. One of them, I want to talk about foods that are low on the GI scale. And then the first thing I'm hoping that you guys can answer is there a way for me, without having an A1C test, to tell if my blood sugar is high or if my blood sugar is low?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, symptom-wise.
Is there a fefeeling that I should be,
I can tell, because I think about this, because I talk to people about how do you feel like either a couple of minutes after you eat like a cupcake or like literally 30 to 45 minutes after you eat that cupcake or that big sugar rush, and mostly the response is very much the same. I enjoy it in the moment, and then here I am 45 minutes later, I either want to crash and fall asleep, or what happens sometimes is people start to get like a little bit of this like tingling sensation. you kind of can have like a little tingling sensation from that blood sugar rush into the bloodstream. And then usually, yeah, it can be like a little burst of energy and then a big crash. Those are symptoms of imbalanced blood sugar.
Right.
Or if you're going, basically you didn't have enough protein with the first meal and then you're getting hangry before that next meal where you're like noticing that like shakiness, and obviously you're getting ready for that kind of crash that's going to happen until you get food like in your body, which tends to lead people to reach for, the muffin or whatever is like nearby, or the donut or something like that, just to shove into their mouth.
So then that you led perfectly into my question about the GI scale, which is awesome. So rather than reach for the muffin that we know is going to spike the blood sugar and potentially crash, you're looking for a snack middle of the day or end of day, whatever it is. What's a low GI? Can you give me some examples of low GI foods?
Yeah. Well, before we kind of dive into that too, it's like really it's about the pairing of the snack too. It's kind of like if you want to have healthy fats with like the carb, like so like string cheese and apple kind of thing, or like, a handful of nuts in the apple or whatever, just a little bit of healthy fats with that. Quick or easily digestible, because apple is a nice soluble form of fiber too. But yeah, lower glycemic index foods are things like non-starchy vegetables. For carbs, it's kind of like quinoa, sweet potatoes, millet. So yeah, and I mean, that's something you can literally Google that, like lower glycemic index foods, and just try to focus on some of those ones. But those are pretty powerful to help, carbs that are kind of good for you,
Right.
I'd say. And then I kind of dive into other things like, okay, I do this when I'm at my house. Okay, I want to tell you, I don't carry this stuff around with me in my purse, but because I'm human and I do have a cookie once in a while, I love to tell people that because they think I'm just like a perfectionist, and I've never seen you eat a cookie, Kim. No, I haven't eaten a cookie. It's really about balance, right? We try to leave in this 80 to 20 or whatever. You're being a little bit more strict once in a while. But if you're at home, you can, if you are going to, you're at a birthday party or whatever, and you're at home, you're hosting a birthday party, you can have like a little diluted shot of apple cider vinegar. And they have, there's like a girl on Instagram, her name is like Glucose Goddess. She has
Glucose Goddess.
Yeah, she has like a book too, and I know it's very popular, but I like following her stuff because she repetitively shows the difference between blood sugar spikes of actually doing some of these tips and tricks. So I've gotten some of that from her, and then listening to her podcast and her book and stuff. But it shows that if you have a little diluted shot of apple cider vinegar before a heavy carbohydrate meal, like if you were going to eat pizza or something like that, it will decrease the blood sugar spike. And I do this oftentimes at home with another product that I buy, organic Ceylon cinnamon. And it has to be Ceylon cinnamon because it's not the same as just regular, but it's CEYLON. Ceylon cinnamon. And if you sprinkle a little bit of that either on like your dessert, or like I'll make like a parfait for breakfast, like plain Greek yogurt, no added sugars, but maybe I'm having blueberries and a little bit of like pure Elizabeth granola or something like that. That does have sugar in it and everything, so it can potentially kind of.
Does it taste the same as cinnamon?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
And I sprinkle that into my parfait, or you can sprinkle that again on the cookie or the cupcake, and that will help decrease the blood sugar spike. So I do those things on a regular basis, like when I'm at home and stuff. And yes, make sure that you dilute the apple cider vinegar because you don't want to just straight up drink it. That'll burn your esophagus.
I think I did that on a dare once.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
Yeah. Those are some of the tips and tricks. And then, if I do see like elevated lab work, I actually do recommend most of my clients kind of get started on something called berberine. It's a very hot supplement right now in the functional medicine space. You want to have like about 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of berberine total daily dosing. You can kind of split it up between your meals or do it at one meal. And that helps with blood sugar regulation. It helps with weight management. It's actually antimicrobial, so it's actually good for gut health too. So tons of benefits of berberine, and it's a very inexpensive supplement. But usually if I do have clients who are very evidenced to be having blood sugar irregularities, or they have higher A1Cs or higher fasting insulin, I usually get them going on that right away. But Also, fun fact, for a berberine to convert, he has to have good gut health. So try to get some probiotics, prebiotics going in the gut too if you're going to use that. Some people, if they have a little bit of a reaction to it, it just tells me, oh yeah, you probably got some stuff going on in your gut right now. We need to work on the gut health and the microbiome too.
For sure.
Wow.
Additional comment?
I just think, this is a lot of great information from Kim. I just, with my clients and just in general, like I'm a mom too, we got to start making lifestyle choices, right? With what we buy, what we purchase, what we put on the table for our kids, because they mimic us. They learn from us. So, I, as a parent, I make sure that my kids have, all the different food groups on their plate. Yeah. And I think it's a choice. It's a lifestyle choice. We, like you said before, we live in a world that's so high paced. It's like quick go, grab and go kind of thing. But we have to make intention of what we're putting in our bodies. Right. Sometimes it's maybe making out a meal plan for the week, purposely okay, I got to make sure I pick this up at the store and just being choosy with what you purchase, the different kinds of meats. Okay. Am I going to, buy this random meat or, one that's really grass fed, it's just being really choosy on what you pick up and just making those little choices.
Kids are the ultimate mirror, right? If you ever want a reality check as to how you're doing, kids are the ultimate mirror for that.
Yeah.
So appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. This episode was all about blood sugar. Please join us next time for another informative episode on holistic health and functional movement. Thank you to Dr. Lindsay. Thank you to Dr. Kim. I'm Kelly. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.